The photo showed my son and his wife on a yacht somewhere impossibly blue. Grace's blonde hair caught the Mediterranean sun while Adam held a champagne flute, his smile as white and perfect as the boat behind them. The caption read, "Living our best life. Sometimes you have to invest in experiences, not things. Hashtag blessed, grateful, work hard, play hard." I double-tapped to like it, then set my phone down on the kitchen counter. My own kitchen, with its 30-year-old laminate countertops and the dishwasher that only worked if you kicked the bottom left corner just right. The pill bottle sat next to my phone, my blood pressure medication. I'd skipped refilling it this month. The copay was $60, and Adam had called 3 weeks ago about an emergency business expense. Something about payroll. I'd transferred $5,000 within the hour. It was October, and the evening light slanted through my kitchen window the way it always did this time of year, gold and tired and making everything look older than it was, including me. I was 58. Adam said that was pretty old last time we spoke, though he'd laughed when he said it, so maybe it was a joke. I opened the refrigerator to start dinner. Chicken breast, on sale. The generic brand of pasta. I'd gotten good at making poverty look like a choice. That's when the pain hit. Not the dull ache I'd been ignoring for weeks. This was different. This was a fist closing around my heart, squeezing until the kitchen tilted sideways. The refrigerator door swung wide, and I heard something crash. The milk, probably. But I was already falling. The granite countertop rushed up to meet me. I'd saved for 3 years to afford that countertop, working overtime at the accounting firm before I retired. Adam had needed help with his first startup then. The failed one. Before the successful consulting business he never seemed to want to talk about. I need to call Adam, I thought, and then everything went black. The beeping came first. Steady, mechanical. Then the smell, that particular cocktail of antiseptic and despair that belongs only to hospitals. My mouth tasted like I'd been chewing cotton, and when I tried to open my eyes, the fluorescent lights made me wince. "Mrs. Harris, can you hear me?" A nurse leaned over me. She had kind eyes, the kind that came from seeing too much but choosing kindness anyway. Her name tag read, Jennifer. I tried to speak but only managed to croak. "Don't try to talk yet," Jennifer said, her hand cool on my forehead. "You've been unconscious for about 6 hours. You had a severe cardiac episode, Mrs. Harris. We almost lost you. Twice." The words landed like stones in still water, sending ripples through my foggy brain. "Almost lost you twice. We need to contact your emergency contact," Jennifer continued, glancing at her chart. "That would be your son, Adam Harris?" Adam, my only child. The boy I'd raised alone after David died of a heart attack when Adam was 12. The same kind of heart attack that apparently ran in families. The young man I'd worked 3 jobs to put through Princeton. The successful businessman who lived in a luxury high-rise in Manhattan with his influencer wife. "Yes," I whispered. "Please call him." Jennifer patted my hand and stepped out into the hallway. I could hear her through the thin wall, her voice professional, but urgent. "Mr. Harris, this is Nurse Jennifer Kowalski at Mount Sinai Hospital. Your mother, Stephanie Harris, is here." "Yes, sir, it's very serious. She suffered a severe cardiac event, and honestly, we weren't sure she'd make it through the night." My heart monitor beeped faster. This was it. The moment when Adam would drop everything and rush to my side. The moment when all those years of sacrifice, the second mortgage for his apartment down payment, the liquidated 401k for his first business, the endless emergency transfers, would finally mean something. Through the wall, I heard his voice. Distant tinny through Jennifer's phone, but clear enough. "Look, I'm at a work dinner at 11 Madison Park. We've been planning this for months. Do you know how impossible it is to get a reservation there?" My chest tightened, but not from my heart this time. "Sir, your mother may not survive the night." "I understand, but she's 58. That's pretty old. If she dies, she dies. Just call me in the morning if she's still alive, okay? I really can't leave right now." The line went dead. I stared at the ceiling tiles, those water-stained acoustic panels that every hospital in America seemed to buy from the same depressing catalog. Each word echoed in my head like a death sentence of its own. If she dies, she dies. Jennifer returned, and I watched her face carefully compose itself into that expression healthcare workers must practice in a mirror, the one that says I have devastating news without actually saying anything at all. Mrs. Harris, I'm so sorry. Your son said he's unable to come tonight due to prior commitments. He asked us to call him in the morning with an update. Prior commitments. A dinner reservation was more important than his dying mother. I see, I managed, though the words felt like broken glass in my throat. Jennifer squeezed my hand. She was maybe 40, with 2 kids' photos pinned to her scrubs. A boy and a girl, elementary school age, both grinning with missing front teeth. I've been doing this for 20 years, honey, she said quietly. Sometimes the people who should care the most are the ones who surprise us the worst. But you're strong. Stronger than you know. You survived tonight. Maybe there's a reason for that. After she left, I lay in the darkness with only the machines for company. The room was cold. The blanket was too thin, and I was completely, utterly alone. That's when something shifted inside me. It started small, a tiny crack in the careful structure I'd built around my heart, the one that said loving your child meant accepting any treatment they offered. The crack spread, branching out like lightning through glass, until suddenly the whole thing shattered. The Stephanie Harris, who had spent nearly 6 decades putting others first, who had sacrificed everything for an ungrateful son, who had accepted scraps of affection as if they were a feast. That woman died in that hospital bed. What emerged was someone different. Someone who finally understood that love without respect is just manipulation. Someone who realized that being a doormat isn't the same as being a good mother. Someone who was about to remind her son that underestimating a woman who has nothing left to lose is a very dangerous mistake. As the monitors beeped steadily through the night, I began to plan. Not my funeral, as Adam probably hoped, but something far more satisfying. His complete and utter financial collapse. 5 days later, I walked out of Mount Sinai under my own power, and I had never felt more alive. The cardiac episode had been caused by stress and hypertension, made worse by skipping my medication. The doctors said I was lucky. With lifestyle changes and proper medication, which I would now actually take, I could live another 30 years. 30 years. More than enough time for what I had planned. Adam hadn't visited once during my hospital stay. Not once. Jennifer and the other nurses tried to hide their disgust, but I could see it in their eyes every time visiting hours ended and my room remained empty. Other patients had flowers, balloons, family members who camped out in uncomfortable chairs. I had medical charts and a growing fury that burned brighter each day. On day 3, he'd sent a card from the hospital gift shop. Generic. Get well soon, in looping script with a watercolor flower. Inside, just his signature. Adam. Not love Adam, not your son Adam. Just his name, like he was signing a business contract. Grace hadn't bothered with even that much, but their neglect had been a gift, really. It gave me time to think, to remember exactly who I was dealing with. I thought about the night Adam graduated from Princeton, how I'd worked the overnight shift at the distribution center, the morning shift at the accounting temp agency, and weekends at the department store to cover what the student loans wouldn't. How Adam had partied with fraternity brothers whose trust funds could have bought my house 3 times over. I thought about his wedding day, when Grace had accidentally forgotten to include me in the family photos, when I'd been seated in the back corner with distant cousins I'd never met, wearing an off-the-rack dress while Grace floated down the aisle in Vera Wang. I thought about all the birthdays, holidays, and special occasions where I'd been an afterthought. The times I'd been uninvited to parties because Grace thought I was too old or wouldn't fit the vibe with their crowd. Most of all, I thought about the money. For 31 years, I'd been Adam's safety net. When he needed a down payment for his first apartment, I'd taken out a second mortgage. When he wanted to start his consulting business after the first startup failed, I'd liquidated my retirement account, all $180,000 of it. When he and Grace bought their luxury apartment, I'd co-signed the mortgage and provided the $175,000 down payment for my life insurance policy's cash value. Over the years, I'd given him close to $850,000. Not loans, gifts, because that's what mothers do for their children, right? They sacrifice everything and expect nothing in return, except respect, except love, except the basic human decency of showing up when your mother is dying in a hospital bed. On my final night at Mount Sinai, I stared out the window at the Manhattan skyline and made a decision that would change everything. The next morning, I took a taxi home to my modest house in Queens, the house I should have paid off years ago if I hadn't spent a fortune supporting my ungrateful son. I showered, put on my best black suit, the one I'd worn to David's funeral 15 years ago, and made 2 phone calls. The first was to my bank. First National, this is David Kelly speaking. David had been my banker for 25 years. He'd watched me scrape together every penny, had approved every loan I'd taken to support Adam's dreams. He knew exactly what my financial sacrifices had cost me. David, this is Stephanie Harris. I need to schedule an emergency meeting. Can you see me this afternoon? There was a pause. Stephanie, I heard about your hospitalization. Are you all right? I'm about to be. 2 o'clock? Of course, I'll clear my schedule. The second call was harder. I pulled up my laptop and searched for Financial Crimes Investigator New York. The first result was a website for Morgan Investigations, run by someone named Rachel Morgan, former FBI, specialized in family financial fraud. My finger hovered over the phone number. This was it. The moment where I either accepted my role as Adam's eternal ATM, or I finally stood up for myself. The moment where I chose between the comfortable lie of maternal martyrdom or the uncomfortable truth of being systematically exploited. I made the call. Morgan Investigations, this is Rachel. Ms. Morgan, my name is Stephanie Harris, and I need to know if my son has been stealing from me. Rachel Morgan's office was in a nondescript building in Midtown, the kind of place you'd walk past 100 times without noticing, which was probably the point. She was maybe 60, with steel gray hair cut in a sharp bob and eyes that looked like they'd seen every lie humanity had to offer. 2 framed commendations from the FBI hung on the wall behind her desk, next to a photo of her shaking hands with someone important whose face I didn't recognize. Coffee? She offered, gesturing to a Keurig in the corner. No, thank you. She sat across from me, a yellow legal pad in front of her. Tell me everything. So I did. The hospital, the phone call, the years of emergencies that drained my accounts, the wedding where I'd been invisible, the gift shop card. All of it came pouring out like I'd lanced an infected wound. When I finished, Rachel was quiet for a long moment, pen tapping against her pad. Mrs. Harris. Stephanie. Stephanie, I have to ask you something, and I need you to really think about the answer. Once you know the truth about your son, you can't unknow it. This investigation will show you exactly who he is, and it might be worse than you're imagining. Are you prepared for that? I looked down at my wrist. The hospital bracelet was still there. I'd kept it on purpose, a reminder of the moment I'd decided to stop being a victim. I'm prepared. Rachel nodded slowly. My retainer is $15,000. That covers 2 weeks of investigation, surveillance, financial analysis, background checks, the works. If we need more time, we'll discuss it. $15,000. That was most of my emergency fund. The money I'd been saving in case Adam needed. No, not anymore. When can you start? I already have. She opened a folder and slid a photograph across the desk. It showed Adam and Grace at a restaurant, expensive looking, holding up champagne glasses. The timestamp in the corner read, October 15th, 11:47 p.m., the night I'd been in the hospital. That's from Grace's Instagram story, Rachel said quietly. She posted it with the caption, Date night at NYC's finest. Sometimes you have to treat yourself to the best. Hashtag, blessed to work hard, play hard and Levin, Madison Park. I stared at the photo, my son's smile, his wife's perfect makeup, the champagne catching the light. She posted this while I couldn't finish the sentence. Yes, Rachel's voice was gentle but firm. Stephanie, I've been doing this for 30 years. This is what I call a pattern case. Your son has shown you who he is repeatedly. I'm just going to document it. I wrote the check with shaking hands. At exactly 2 o'clock, I walked into First National Bank wearing my black suit and carrying a leather portfolio I'd bought specifically for this meeting. If I was going to dismantle my son's financial life, I was going to do it looking like the formidable woman I'd forgotten I could be. David Kelly stood when I entered his office, concern creasing his face. He was maybe 50, with the kind of premature gray that came from too many mortgage crisis meetings. "Stephanie, my God, I'm so glad you're all right. When I heard about the hospital—" "Thank you, David. I'm fine now. Better than fine, actually." I sat down and opened my portfolio. I need to review every account, loan, and credit line where Adam has access or where I'm a co-signer. David's expression shifted from concern to something more professional, wary. "That's quite a comprehensive request. May I ask why?" "You may. I'm removing my son from my financial life, completely." He was quiet for a moment, then pulled up his computer screen. "All right, let's start with the joint accounts." For the next hour, we went through everything. Every credit card where Adam was an authorized user, every loan where I'd co-signed, every account where he had access in case of emergency. The numbers were staggering. Over the past 5 years alone, Adam had spent $340,000 through our joint accounts, and that didn't include the direct transfers I'd made to his personal account. "David," I said slowly, "you've handled Adam's business accounts too, haven't you?" He shifted uncomfortably. "I can't discuss other clients' accounts, even with family members." "I'm not asking for details. I'm asking you a yes or no question. Is my son's consulting business successful?" David was quiet for so long I thought he wouldn't answer. Then, "Stephanie, Adam's firm had gross revenues of $1.8 million last year." The room tilted slightly. "I'm sorry, what?" $1.8 million. His business is very successful, but his spending is—" He trailed off. "His spending is what, David?" "Approximately $3.5 million annually, which means he's spending almost double what he earns. The difference has been subsidized by the accounts you're listed on." I did the math in my head. $1.7 million per year, from me, while he told me about business emergencies and cash flow problems. "I want everything closed," I said. "Every joint account, every authorized user card, every co-signed loan. I want my name removed from anything connected to him." "Stephanie, if you remove your guarantees, his entire credit structure will collapse. The bank will call the loans within 30 to 60 days. He'll have to pay everything back immediately or face default." "Good." David studied me for a long moment. He'd been my banker long enough to know this wasn't an impulsive decision. "All right, I'll prepare the paperwork. But Stephanie, this will effectively destroy his financial stability. Are you sure?" I thought about the hospital room, the 5 empty days, the gift shop card. I've never been more sure of anything in my life. Dr. Patricia Sullivan's office was in a brownstone on the Upper West Side, the kind of place that whispered discreet and expensive. Her degrees from Columbia and Yale hung in tasteful frames, and a white noise machine hummed softly outside the door. I'd found her through a Google search. Therapist for family financial abuse. The phrase had felt melodramatic when I typed it. Now it felt accurate. "Tell me what brings you here, Stephanie," Dr. Sullivan said. She was maybe 55, with kind eyes and an expression that managed to be both neutral and encouraging. So I told her. Again. The hospital, the investigation, the bank meeting. But this time something broke loose inside me. "What if I'm the problem?" The words came out in a rush. "What if I made him this way? What if I gave too much, expected too little, turned him into someone who thinks love is just a transaction?" Dr. Sullivan leaned forward slightly. "Stephanie, did you teach Adam that your love was conditional on financial support?" "No, of course not." "Did you tell him that the only way to earn your affection was to take your money?" "Never." "Then you didn't create this dynamic. You gave love. He learned to take. Those are two very different things." I felt tears on my face and didn't remember starting to cry. "But he's still my son." "Yes," Dr. Sullivan said gently. "And you can love someone and still require them to face consequences. Those two things aren't mutually exclusive. In fact, sometimes consequences are the most loving thing we can offer. She handed me a tissue and a homework assignment. Write down every time I'd said yes when I wanted to say no. That night, I sat at my kitchen table with a notebook. 3 hours later, I'd filled 8 pages. The entries went back decades. The last one read, "The hospital. I wanted him to come. I needed him to come. He said no." I closed the notebook and called Rachel Morgan. "I need you to find out everything," I said. "Every lie, every dollar, everything." Rachel's first report arrived via encrypted email 1 week later. I sat at my kitchen table with a cup of coffee that went cold as I read. The document was 43 pages long. Each page was another knife in my back. March 15th, 2024. Subject requested $45,000 for urgent tax liability. Actual expense: first-class tickets to Paris, 2, Hotel George V, 7 nights. $8,000 in charges at Louis Vuitton. Evidence: credit card statements, Instagram geolocation data, customs records. June 3rd, 2024. Subject requested $60,000 for critical business equipment. Actual expense: down payment on BMW X7, $52,000. Remainder spent at Tiffany & Co. Evidence: DMV records, retail receipts. August 12th, 2024. Subject requested $75,000 for legal settlement to avoid lawsuit. Actual expense: Rolex Daytona collection, 4 watches. Initiation fee at Westchester Country Club. Evidence: watch authentication records, country club membership confirmation. The list went on for 6 pages. Every emergency had been a lie. Every crisis had been a luxury purchase. My phone rang. Rachel. "Did you get the report?" she asked. "I'm reading it now." "Stephanie, there's something else. Someone I think you should talk to. Adam's ex-girlfriend from college, Mia Rodriguez. She reached out after I started asking questions." "Why would she want to talk to me?" "Because she says Adam hasn't changed since college, and she wants you to know what you're dealing with." Mia Rodriguez was 35, a corporate lawyer with tired eyes and a firm handshake. We met at a Starbucks near her office in Brooklyn. "Thank you for meeting me," I said. "I almost didn't," Mia admitted, stirring her latte. "I spent a lot of years trying to forget Adam Harris. But when your investigator started asking around, I realized someone needs to tell you the truth about him." "What truth?" Mia took a breath. "Mrs. Harris, do you know why Adam was almost expelled from Princeton junior year?" I felt my stomach drop. He wasn't. He graduated with honors. He graduated because you paid $50,000 to the university as a donation. Adam was caught forging professor signatures on grant applications. He'd been creating fake research projects and pocketing the grant money, almost $30,000 over 2 semesters. The coffee shop sounds faded into white noise. "That's not—" "He never told me." "Because you fixed it for him." Mia's voice wasn't unkind, but it was firm. The university gave him a choice: criminal prosecution or expulsion, unless his family could demonstrate extraordinary commitment to Princeton. You paid. He stayed. The records were sealed. I felt like I was drowning. "How do you know this?" "Because I was there when it happened. I was the one who convinced him to tell you instead of letting the police handle it." I thought he'd learned his lesson. She laughed bitterly. "I was 20 years old and stupid. I learned better. That's why I left him." "When did you—" "Senior year. After his father died, Adam became obsessed with money. Not earning it, having it. He'd steal from roommates, lie to get loans he never repaid, charm people into paying for things. I realized he saw people as resources, not humans, including you. Especially you." She pulled out her phone and showed me a text message from 10 years ago. Adam's number. "Mom's good for another $50K. She'll give me whatever I need. She always does." "I'm sorry," Mia said quietly. "But I thought you should know. This isn't new behavior. You didn't create it recently. He's been this person for a very long time. You've just been too close to see it." After she left, I sat in that Starbucks for an hour, staring at my untouched coffee. A memory I'd buried for 20 years was clawing its way back to the surface. The phone call from Princeton's dean, the serious conversation about an incident, the donation check I'd written from my home equity line. I told myself it was a youthful mistake, that Adam had learned his lesson. But he hadn't learned anything. He'd learned that I would always fix it. Rachel's second report arrived 3 days later. This one was worse. Grace wasn't having an affair. That would have been simpler. Instead, Rachel had uncovered something far more calculated. Grace and Adam's marriage was a business arrangement. Grace needed the appearance of wealth to maintain her influencer image, the luxury apartment, the designer clothes, the exotic vacations. Her 450,000 Instagram followers were attracted to aspiration, not reality. Adam needed Grace as proof of his success. The beautiful wife, the perfect life, the external validation that he'd made it. Neither of them loved each other. They were business partners running a joint scam, and I was the bank funding the whole operation. The report included a detailed analysis of Grace's actual income, $45,000 per year from sponsored posts. Most of her followers were purchased bots. The designer bags, the luxury travel, the blessed life, all of it was financed by me. Additional finding: Tyler Brooks, Grace's manager. Tyler Brooks wasn't just her manager. He was also her boyfriend. Adam knew. Grace knew Adam used professional networking events as hunting grounds for short-term affairs. Neither cared, as long as the money kept flowing and the Instagram feed stayed perfect. Their marriage was performance art, and I was the unseen patron funding the show. But the final page of Rachel's report made my blood run cold. Critical discovery. Life insurance policy. 3 years ago, Adam had increased my life insurance policy from $500,000 to $2 million. I didn't remember approving it, but my signature was on the paperwork. He'd brought it to me during a visit, buried in a stack of routine documents that needed signing. I'd been making dinner. Adam was the sole beneficiary. Rachel had also obtained Adam's laptop browsing history through methods I decided not to ask about. The searches painted a disturbing picture. Early inheritance strategies, life insurance payout timeline, average life expectancy women heart conditions. Does life insurance pay if death is natural causes? The last search was dated October 10th, 5 days before my cardiac episode. I sat at my kitchen table, the report in front of me, and asked myself a question I never thought I'd ask. Had my son been hoping I would die? That evening, I called Dr. Sullivan. I need an emergency session. She fit me in at 8 o'clock. I arrived with Rachel's report and a question I couldn't answer alone. Did my son want me dead? Dr. Sullivan read through the insurance section carefully. When she looked up, her expression was grave. Stephanie, I can't answer that question. I can't tell you what was in Adam's mind. But I can ask you this. Does it change what you need to do? I don't know. If he was just financially irresponsible, that's one thing. But if he was actually planning for your death as a financial windfall? The words hung in the air between us. Yes. Then you need to ask yourself, can you have a relationship with someone who's demonstrated that your death holds value to them? Not just in grief, but in dollars? I thought about the hospital, the phone call. If she dies, she dies. Maybe he'd meant it more literally than I'd realized. The trap I set was elegant in its simplicity. I called my doctor and asked him to make a phone call to Adam. Tell him my cardiac condition is deteriorating. Tell him I need to update my estate planning. Dr. Martinez was reluctant, but after I explained the situation, he agreed. The call was made on a Tuesday at 3 p.m. Rachel had surveillance set up to monitor Adam's reaction. According to her report, Adam's response to "your mother's condition is worsening" was finally. That's terrible. Should I come visit? He never came. Instead, Rachel's surveillance showed him celebrating with Grace that night at their apartment. They'd ordered champagne, but the real prize came 3 days later. I left my laptop accidentally unlocked with a fake obituary draft saved on the desktop. Adam had my passwords. I'd given them to him years ago, in case of emergency. Rachel's monitoring software showed he'd logged into my computer remotely at 11:23 p.m. He'd read the obituary. He'd also opened a document titled Last Will Final Doc X, a fake will leaving everything to him. 20 minutes after that, Rachel's camera captured audio from Adam and Grace's apartment. Their voices were clear. Grace: "So it's finally happening?" Adam: "Looks like it. Could be any day now." Grace: "And she left everything to you?" Adam: "Of course she did. I'm her son. Who else would she leave it to?" Grace: "Thank God. We can finally buy the Hamptons house, and I can stop pretending these rental designer bags are mine." Adam: "I knew if we waited long enough, she was bound to have another cardiac event. Her father died of a heart attack too. It's genetic." Grace: "Should we visit her in the hospital one more time, for appearance's sake?" Adam, laughing: "Why bother? Let her die thinking we love her. It's kinder that way." Rachel sent me the audio file at midnight. I listened to it 17 times before sunrise. Let her die thinking we love her. I'd given this man life. I'd sacrificed everything to give him opportunities I never had, and he was counting down the days until my death like it was a stock option about to vest. At 8 a.m., I sent 2 text messages. To Adam: "Please come to my house tomorrow at 2 p.m. We need to discuss my estate planning." To Rachel: "Bring everything. Tomorrow we end this." They arrived at exactly 2 o'clock. Through my front window, I watched Adam's Tesla pull into my driveway, the one I'd co-signed for 18 months ago during a transportation emergency. Grace stepped out first, her designer sunglasses probably worth more than my monthly grocery budget. Adam followed, checking his phone, his expression already impatient. I'd spent the morning preparing. Rachel was set up in my home office with her laptop and recording equipment. Dr. Sullivan had offered to be present, but I declined. This needed to be just family. Whatever that word meant anymore. I opened the door before they could knock. "Mom!" Adam leaned in for a perfunctory hug. He smelled expensive, cologne I'd probably paid for. "You're looking better. Thank you for coming." I stepped aside to let them in. Grace gave me a tight smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Of course, Stephanie. We've been so worried." The lie sat in the air between us like smoke. I led them to the living room, the one with the good furniture I'd bought used 20 years ago because new furniture meant less money for Adam's college expenses. "Please sit down," I gestured to the couch. "Can I get you anything? Coffee? Water?" "We're fine," Adam said, settling back with the confidence of someone who thought they were about to inherit everything. "You said this was about estate planning?" "In a way." I sat in the armchair across from them, David's old chair, the one I'd kept after he died. "But first I thought we'd watch a movie." Adam's brow furrowed. "A movie? Mom, we don't really have time for—" I picked up the remote and turned on the TV. Rachel's file was already queued up. The first image that filled the screen was Adam and Grace's apartment. The timestamp read, October 29th, 11:47 p.m. Grace's voice came through clearly. "So it's finally happening?" The color drained from Adam's face. "Looks like it. Could be any day now." "Mom, what is this?" "And she left everything to you?" "Turn it off." Grace's voice was strangled. "Of course she did. I'm her son. Who else would she leave it to?" I increased the volume. "Thank God. We can finally buy the Hamptons house." Adam stood abruptly. "This is illegal. You can't record people without—" "In New York, only one party needs to consent to recording," I said calmly. I consented. I own this house. The surveillance was legal. I knew if we waited long enough, she was bound to have another cardiac event. The words I'd listened to 17 times now hit differently in person, watching Adam's face as he heard his own voice calculating my death. Should we visit her in the hospital one more time, for appearance's sake? Then Adam's laugh, that casual, dismissive laugh. Why bother? Let her die thinking we love her. It's kinder that way. I paused the video. The silence in my living room was absolute. Grace was crying, mascara tracking down her cheeks. Adam had gone very still, his face ashen. "Mom," he said finally, we didn't mean—" "Stop." My voice was steady, calm. I'd practiced this. "I want you to watch the next part." I played the second file. This one was a montage Rachel had compiled. Every fake emergency cross-referenced with the actual expenses. Adam's face appeared in photograph after photograph. Paris, the Bahamas, the BMW dealership, Tiffany's, the country club. Each image had a caption showing what he'd told me versus what he'd actually spent the money on. $45,000 for tax emergencies, I narrated as the images played. Actually spent on a week in Paris. $60,000 for business equipment. Actually a down payment on Grace's car. $75,000 for a legal settlement. Actually watches and a country club membership. The montage continued. 3 minutes of lies laid out in excruciating detail. When it ended, I turned off the TV and looked at my son. "Adam, let me ask you something. When was the last time you visited me just to see how I was doing? Not when you needed something. Just because you cared." He opened his mouth, then closed it. "I'll tell you when. It's been 8 months. The last time you set foot in this house was February 14th, when you needed me to co-sign for Grace's car loan. You brought flowers, carnations, my least favorite, and left 20 minutes after I signed the paperwork." "Mom, I've been busy with the business." "Your business that generates $1.8 million in annual revenue?" I pulled out David Kelly's report. "The business you told me was struggling while you spent $3.5 million a year? The business I've been subsidizing to the tune of $1.7 million annually?" Adam's mouth fell open. "You're not broke, Adam. You're just living beyond even your very substantial means, and you've been using me as your personal bank to make up the difference." Grace found her voice. "Stephanie, this is a misunderstanding." "Is it?" I turned to her. "Tell me, Grace, how much do you actually make from your influencer career? Not the image you project, the reality." She was silent. "I'll tell you. $45,000 last year. The rest, the luxury apartment, the designer bags, the exotic vacations, all funded by me. Your entire Instagram presence is a lie built on my retirement savings." I stood and walked to my desk, pulling out 3 folders. I handed one to each of them and kept the third. Inside, you'll find several things. First, evidence of tax fraud. "Adam, you've been claiming personal expenses I paid for as business deductions. The IRS received their copy this morning." Adam's hands shook as he opened the folder. "Second, documentation of elder financial abuse. I filed a report with Adult Protective Services. It's a matter of public record now." "You can't do this," Grace whispered. "Third, termination notices for every loan I've co-signed, every credit card where you're an authorized user, every account where you have access. Effective immediately." "Mom, please." "Fourth, a copy of my new will. You'll notice you're not in it. Everything goes to charity now. The women's shelter, the food bank, and a scholarship fund for students whose parents can't afford Princeton." Adam's face had gone from white to red. "This is insane. I'm your son." "Are you?" I asked quietly. "Because sons don't calculate their mother's life expectancy. Sons don't increase life insurance policies and then Google early inheritance strategies. Sons don't celebrate their mother's declining health like it's a stock option about to vest." I pulled out the final document, printouts of his search history. Average life expectancy women heart conditions. October 10th. Does life insurance pay if death is natural causes? October 13th. 5 days before my cardiac episode that you couldn't be bothered to interrupt dinner for. "I never wanted you to die." Adam's voice broke. I was planning. I was being responsible." "Responsible?" The word tasted like acid. "You were financially planning for my death as a desirable outcome. Do you understand how that feels? To know your child has assigned a dollar value to your life and decided it's worth more than your continued existence?" Adam sank back onto the couch, his head in his hands. When he looked up, there were tears in his eyes. "You don't understand what it's like," he said, and for the first time he sounded genuinely broken. "After Dad died, I watched you struggle. I watched you work yourself to exhaustion. I was 12 years old, and I promised myself I'd never be poor like that. Never be helpless like that. So you decided to steal from me? I decided to succeed. His voice rose. I built a business. I made something of myself. But it's never enough, Mom. The clients expect luxury. Grace's followers expect perfection. Everyone's watching, waiting for me to fail like I did with the first startup. Do you know what that's like? To have everyone expecting you to fall? So you used me as a safety net. You turned me into insurance against your fear of failure. Yes, he was crying now, really crying. Yes, okay, I used you because I knew you'd always be there, because you'd always said family comes first, because I'm your son and you love me and you thought that love was unconditional, I finished. That I'd give and never ask for anything in return. That you could treat me like an ATM with an inconvenient personality attached, and I'd just keep accepting it. I do love you, Mom. No, Adam. You love what I can do for you. There's a difference. Grace had been silent throughout this exchange, but now she stood. This is ridiculous. You're being vindictive and cruel. Adam has a family to support. Sit down, Grace. My voice was ice. You don't get to play the victim here. You knew exactly what you were doing. You and Tyler Brooks have been quite the team, haven't you? Managing your brand while my money funded the lifestyle you photograph? Her eyes widened. How do you... I know everything. The purchased followers, the rental designer bags. The fact that your marriage is a business arrangement where you both tolerate each other's affairs as long as the money keeps flowing. You're not victims. You're con artists. And the con is over. I walked to the door and opened it. You have 60 days before the banks call your loans. I suggest you figure out how to pay them, or you'll lose everything. The apartment, the cars, all of it. Mom, you can't do this. I already have. And Adam, there's one more thing in your folder. Restraining order paperwork. It's not filed yet. But if you contact me for any reason other than a genuine emergency in the next year, I'll file it immediately. Do you understand? He stared at me like I was a stranger. Maybe I was. Maybe the mother he'd known, the one who said yes to everything, had died in that hospital bed after all. Get out of my house. They left without another word. Through the window, I watched the Tesla back out of my driveway. Adam's face was visible through the windshield. Shocked, devastated, lost. I closed the curtains and leaned against the door. Then finally, I let myself cry. Rachel emerged from the office and put a hand on my shoulder. That took courage. It took rage, I said. I'm not sure that's the same thing. Sometimes they overlap. She handed me a tissue. What now? Now we wait and see if he's capable of learning, or if I've just written off my only child forever. The consequences cascaded faster than I'd anticipated. Week 1, Adam's credit cards were declined at a client dinner. The embarrassment cost him the account, a Fortune 500 company worth $200,000 in annual revenue. Week 2, the BMW was repossessed from a valet stand at a restaurant. Grace's Instagram went dark for 3 days, then returned with a vague post about temporary setbacks and real versus fake. The comments were merciless. Week 3, their luxury apartment management company began eviction proceedings. Grace filed for divorce and moved in with Tyler Brooks. Her Instagram bio changed to "taking time to find my authentic self," which apparently meant admitting the luxury lifestyle had been fake all along. Week 4, Adam's remaining clients began jumping ship. Word traveled fast in Manhattan business circles. Financial instability was a death sentence for a consultant who advised others on money management. I watched it all through Rachel's surveillance and Grace's increasingly desperate social media presence. I told myself I felt nothing, that this was justice. But late at night, alone in my house, I felt like a monster. Dr. Sullivan's office became my sanctuary. He's losing everything, I told her during an emergency session. His business is collapsing. Grace left him. He's living in his office. And all I can think about is, did I do this? Am I responsible? Are you responsible for his choices? I'm responsible for the consequences of my choices. Yes, Dr. Sullivan agreed. And what were your choices? To stop funding his lies? To require honesty and respect? To protect yourself from exploitation? To destroy my son's life? No, her voice was firm. To stop protecting him from the natural consequences of his behavior. There's a difference. Is there? Because from where I'm sitting, I'm the reason he's suffering. Adam is suffering because his house of cards collapsed. You were the foundation of that house, yes, but you didn't build it. He did. Every lie, every manipulation, every dollar stolen, those were his choices. You just stopped being complicit in them. But I'm his mother, and mothers can love their children without rescuing them from consequences. In fact, sometimes that's the most loving thing we can do. I wanted to believe her, but belief and certainty are different things, and I had very little certainty about anything anymore. 6 weeks after the confrontation, the IRS letter arrived. Not to me, to Adam. But his lawyer called me, desperate. Mrs. Harris, my client is facing tax evasion charges for claiming personal expenses as business deductions. The penalty is approximately $180,000 plus interest. If the IRS pursues criminal charges, he's looking at 2 to 5 years in federal prison. I see. Mrs. Harris, I know there's been a family dispute, but Adam is in serious trouble. Is there any way you might be willing to help? I hung up and sat in my kitchen, staring at the phone. That evening, an envelope appeared under my front door. Inside was a letter. 10 pages, handwritten, Adam's familiar script filling every line. Mom, I don't have the right to ask you for anything. I know that. But I'm writing this anyway, because if I don't, I'll go to prison never having told you the truth. You're right about everything. I did use you. I did lie to you. I did reduce you to a financial resource instead of seeing you as a human being who deserved respect and love. I thought about your death as a solution to my problems. I'm not going to lie and say I wanted you to die. I don't think I did. Not really. But I thought about it. I planned for it. I assigned it a dollar value and felt relieved that at least if things got too bad, there would be an inheritance to fall back on. Writing that makes me sick. I'm sick with myself. You asked when I became this person. I think it was after Dad died. I watched you grieve, and underneath the grief I saw fear. Fear of the bills. Fear of not having enough. Fear of failing me. And I decided I would never feel that fear. I would never be vulnerable like you were. So I built walls made of money. I confused success with safety. And I turned everyone in my life, especially you, into supporting characters in my story instead of real people with their own needs. Grace left me. She said I was emotionally bankrupt and that no amount of money would fix that. She was right. My business is falling apart. My clients don't trust me anymore. I'm living in my office, eating ramen, trying to figure out how I ended up here. And all I can think about is that phone call from the hospital. If she dies, she dies. I said that. About you, the woman who worked 3 jobs so I could go to Princeton. The woman who gave up everything so I could have opportunities. I don't know if I can change, Mom. I don't know if I'm capable of being the son you deserved. But I want to try. Not to get my life back. Not to restore my lifestyle. But because I finally understand what I lost when I lost your respect. And it's worth more than any amount of money. I'm not asking for help with the IRS. I'm not asking for money. I'm asking for something I have no right to ask for. A chance. Not now. Maybe not ever. But someday. If you can find it in yourself to believe that people can change, that I can change, I'll spend the rest of my life proving you right. Your son, I hope. Adam, I read the letter 4 times. Then I called Dr. Sullivan. He wrote me a letter. It feels different, real, but I don't trust my judgment anymore. Read it to me. I did. When I finished, there was a long silence. Stephanie, only you can decide if you believe him. But I want you to understand something. Belief isn't required to set boundaries. You can love someone, hope they change, and still protect yourself from them. Those things aren't mutually exclusive. If I help him, am I just enabling again? That depends on what help looks like. Are you rescuing him completely, or are you offering limited support with strict conditions that require him to do the hard work himself? I thought about this for a long time. 3 days later, I called Adam. "Mom," his voice was hoarse, like he'd been crying. "Did you get my letter?" "I did." I meant every word. "I believe you meant it when you wrote it, Adam. Whether you'll mean it 6 months from now, I don't know. And I need you to understand. I don't know if I'll ever trust you again. I might always wonder if you're conning me." "That's fair." He was crying now. "That's more than fair. I'll pay half the IRS penalty, $90,000, but there are conditions. Anything. You'll work with a financial counselor, not me, for 2 years. I'll pay for that separately. You'll see a therapist who specializes in behavioral patterns and money disorders. You'll meet me for lunch once a month, not to ask for anything, just to talk. And if you miss one session, one lunch, or ask me for money even once, I'm done forever. Do you understand?" "Yes." "The other 90,000 you'll earn, or you'll face the consequences. That's not my problem to solve." "I understand." "Adam, I need you to know something. I love you. I've always loved you. But I love myself now, too. And I won't sacrifice myself for you anymore. Those days are over." "I know, Mom. And I'm going to earn back your respect, not your money. Your respect, even if it takes the rest of my life." After I hung up, I sat in my garden and wondered if I'd just made a terrible mistake. But Dr. Sullivan's words echoed in my mind. You can love someone and protect yourself from them at the same time. Maybe that was enough. 8 months later, I was in my garden reading the advance copy of my memoir when my phone rang. Adam's name on the screen still made my heart race. Anxiety and hope mixed into something complicated and uncomfortable. "Hi, sweetheart," I answered. "Mom, I got promoted." His voice was excited, genuine. "I'm now a senior consultant at the firm. It's not my own company, but it's honest work. Good work. I'm proud of you. I wanted you to know first. Not because I want anything, just because I wanted you to know." We talked for 20 minutes about his job, my book, the weather, normal things, parent and child things. As we were saying goodbye, Adam hesitated. "Mom, can I ask you something?" My body tensed automatically. Old patterns die hard. "What?" "Will there ever be a day when you don't wonder if I'm conning you?" The question hit me in the chest. I could lie. I could give him false reassurance. But I'd promised myself honesty, even when it hurt. "I don't know, Adam. Maybe not." There was a long pause. Then, "That's fair. I'll keep trying anyway." After we hung up, I sat in the garden for a long time, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of gold and crimson. My phone buzzed with a text from Rachel. Grace was arrested. Embezzlement from Tyler's company. $150K over 18 months. Thought you'd want to know. I stared at the message. I'd expected to feel triumphant, vindicated. Instead, I just felt sad. Everyone in this story had been trapped by lies, by fear, by the desperate need to appear successful while drowning in private failures. There were no clear winners here, just people trying to survive their own bad choices. The phone rang again. Adam's monthly call had always been on the 15th, but this was only the 8th. I hesitated, then answered. "Mom, I just heard about Grace. Are you okay?" I'm processing. "I know you probably think I'm calling because of her, but I'm not. I'm calling because I realized you might be feeling complicated about this, and I wanted you to know I'm here if you want to talk." I felt tears on my face. "Thank you, Adam. I love you, Mom. Not because of what you can do for me, just because you're my mom. I'm going to keep saying that until maybe someday you believe it." After he hung up, I sat in my garden until the stars came out. I'd learned the hardest lesson of all. You can love someone and protect yourself from them at the same time. You can hope for change without guaranteeing it. You can extend grace without abandoning boundaries. And maybe, just maybe, that was the only inheritance worth leaving behind. Not money, not security, but the knowledge that love without respect is just manipulation, and that demanding both isn't selfish. It's survival. I looked down at my memoir's dedication page. For everyone who's ever been told that setting boundaries means you don't really love someone. For everyone who's learned that the most loving thing you can do is require people to face their own consequences. And for me, because at 58, I finally learned to love myself as much as I loved everyone else. The phone buzzed one more time. Adam again. Thank you for not giving up on me, even when I gave up on myself. I typed back. I didn't give up. I just stopped enabling. There's a difference. 3 dots appeared. Then, I'm learning that. Slowly. But I'm learning. I looked up at the stars and thought about David, my late husband, who died never seeing our son become this person. I wondered what he'd think of all this. The betrayal, the consequences, the uncertain redemption. Then I realized it didn't matter what he'd think. This was my story now, my choices, my boundaries, my life. And for the first time in 31 years, I was living it for myself.